Happening now on Grid tonight. Joseph Newgarden had the fastest 4-lap average. Colton Herta, the fastest single lap time. How was this a big impact for the drawing of qualifications? And Nolan Siegel got a lot of attention today after a big crash exiting turn 2. How big of a setback is this for him? And Dale Coyne Racing. Hello everyone and welcome to a special Grid Tonight covering the full week of Indianapolis 500 practice. Joe Samaniiego here along with Ben Schneider. Ben, we got a lot to talk about. Before we get into that, of course, a big thank you to our Patreon investors, Con, the show, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew for investing in the Grid Network each and every month. You too can invest in the Grid Network. Once you sign up, you get some Grid Network stickers sent out to you. And if you do a one-time investment through Buy Me a Coffee, YouTube Super Chat, or our new YouTube membership, once you hit $10 or more, we'll send out you some Grid Network stickers. And of course, hit the subscribe button, the like, bell icon. Don't miss any of our covers at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, including the pre-race show. Link in the video description for big Sunday of racing. And of course, a big thank you to everyone watching. Comment in the chat room with your questions, predictions. We'll love to hear them and share them on the air. Let's get started, Ben. Team Penske, when it comes to the 4-lap average, we saw a lot of people making mock qualifying runs. There were 1, 2, 3. Joseph Newgarden, the fastest, Scott McLaughlin, and Will Power. Qualifying has not exactly been their strength at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They always have the speed for the race itself, but qualifying, they're still up towards the front, but now they're looking at potentially a front row lockout, first time since 1988 when Team Penske did that. So I got to ask you, do you see Joseph Newgarden, who led the train, is he back to the form he was? Because after St. Petersburg, the disqualification, he has not finished in the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, we'll know for sure this weekend, but he certainly looks like it. Obviously he was very strong on the ovals last year, and this is obviously a big weekend for him because he's the defending winner of this race from last year. So I would say absolutely, Joseph Newgarden is back. Team Penske is back as if they had ever left, because Scott McLaughlin's still been running very strong. Will Power's obviously off to a great start to the year. But Joseph Newgarden, I think, took the penalty the hardest. And, I don't know if it's just been a mental aspect of just being mentally drained from all of the exhaustion and the media attention that his team got from the controversy. But I think coming back to the IMS as the defending winner of the 500 is exactly what he needed to get back to top form. And obviously Penske's brought the speed. And like you mentioned, Joe, obviously they always bring it in the race, but we haven't seen it necessarily in qualifying in recent years. But it appears that that's going to change this year, because Joseph Newgarden, again, over 234 already just on Fast Friday before we even get into the official qualifying runs. Great sign for them. And we'll see, they might have a chance to do something they haven't done in a long time, do something that's very difficult to do. And that might be just lock out the front row with Newgarden maybe taking the pole position. We'll see.
And displayed is the fastest single lap times from today. Of course, Colton Herta was the fastest, Kyle Larson second, Joseph Newgarden third. As I mentioned, they're doing the drawings for the qualifying order. And for Team Penske drivers, as you see, they're all up towards the front. That means the fastest got to Drew the number first, so they're still working down the order. Colton Herta, first one to Drew, 29th. He's going to go out 29th in qualifying. But Joseph Newgarden, he drew 10th. Scott McLaughlin, his wife was there, drew second to qualify, and Will Power 9th. So all Team Penske drivers very early on tomorrow qualifying. So does the chances of a front row lockout improve now? And does it look like one of their big rivals, Rossi, the other fast Chevy, he's going to qualify much later on. He's looking at last, 34th.
Yeah, I don't think Rossi has to worry about running the 34th fastest time or the slowest time. In other words, I think he'll have the speed in his McLaren, but obviously not an ideal qualifying draw for him here just a few minutes ago. But for Team Penske, yeah, I mean, absolutely. They got a very favorable draw. Everybody seems happy with where they've slotted in here. And I think that's, again, only going to continue to play to their advantage. And, we'll see if they can maintain this speed in the Fast 12 and, continue to show the form that they showed today when it comes time to actually slot in and set the qualifying laps. I think that they absolutely have a shot to sweep the front row with all three of their cars.
All three of their cars, they're looking very great. Chevrolets, overall, they're looking pretty good. 8 Chevrolets were in the top 10 when it came to the 4-lap average. Felix Rosenqvist was the fastest Honda in 5th. Now, in the race, we've seen where Honda, there's no clear disadvantage between them and the Chevrolets. They're pretty equal. The slowest Chevrolet today in the 4-lap average, Connor Daly in the number 24. Honda, the slowest times, though, goes to them with Dale Coyne Racing. Last year, of course, we know it was all Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan in the last row shootout, all Hondas, Graham Rahal being the one bumped out. So Honda, Chevrolets, do they start looking into helping some of their teams that are struggling to find extra speed so they don't have that one car going home?
Yeah, I think so. I could definitely see some of these teams, that share that engine supply are working together to try to make sure that it's not one of their own cars that gets sent home. Of course, we have 34 cars this year, so you're only going to see one car fail to qualify on bump day. So it's you certainly don't want to be that one manufacturer that doesn't have one of your entries qualify for this race here. So, I think if one Honda car has some speed or one Honda team has speed, they might try to share some resources, share some data and information. Obviously, you don't want to do that with a Chevy team because you want all of your, if you're Honda or Chevy, you want all the engines that you're supplying to run this race. So, I think absolutely you want to do everything you can to make sure that you're not the one going home.
Yeah, nobody wants to be the one going home. I feel that's going to be extra painful. Just like last year, only one driver going home. And of course, this year we have 16 Chevrolets, 16 Hondas. So it's going to be even, but one of them is going to be down to 15. And very likely that could be.
Sorry, Joe, that's 32, 16, 16. Is it 17?
17, 16 probably was it then. So,
yeah.
So
yeah, but we got an even number of manufacturer of engines, right? So
exactly. And just a quick update. Helio Castroneves just drew his qualifying position 33rd, second to last. So Helio Castroneves is going to have to wait a long time tomorrow to go out and qualify. Now, of course, 33rd, that's the last starter, the last row shootout. That's going to be very big. And Nolan Siegel, unfortunately, a very big crash today. Exit in turn 2, lost it, got airborne after the car hit the wall and slid backwards to air getting underneath the car. He was sliding upside down on the roll hoop and the aero screen. And overall, it has not been a good week for him. Practice 1, 22nd fastest. 32nd fastest in the third practice. We did not have that second practice. And then, of course, 33rd yesterday. Today, only 9 laps done. Slowest, 33rd. Nolan Siegel, is he likely to end up in that last row shootout and maybe lead the candidate of all the drivers that could get bumped?
Just circle back. I just looked at the entry list to clarify. It's 18 Hondas and 16 Chevrolets, so slight advantage to Honda there. But of course, like I said, it doesn't really change the fact that we have only one car that's not going to be able to make this race. So, maybe you look at Honda having a slight advantage in terms of a number. Maybe that makes it a little bit more likely. But obviously, with the way things look right now, I think Dale Coyne as a whole is in trouble, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But Nolan Siegel, obviously an unfortunate deal. Today, obviously, we're thankful that it wasn't worse. There are no small hits when you're going 220, 230 miles an hour around this oval here. But, thankful that, the fact that he did get airborne and upside down, but it wasn't, it certainly could have been a lot worse than it was. So, fortunately for him, it sounds like he's all right and he'll be able to try to come back tomorrow, be physically fine to put down a 4-lap average. But, that is some valuable track time that he lost today. So, yeah, when you factor, what his teammate Catherine Legg is going through as well, I would have to say that I don't want to go so far as to say a lock because there are no locks here at Indianapolis. But if I were a betting man, and I'm not, but if I were, unfortunately, I think Siegel would be at the top of the list for who might end up in that last row shootout.
Last row shootout is going to be something else. Alex Palou's dad just drew 25th in the qualifying order, so Alex Palou is going to have to wait quite some time as well to go out there, set a lap. Catherine Legg, as you mentioned, the teammate to Nolan Siegel, 4-lap average. All of them have been under 230 miles per hour, so she does not have the speed. When it comes to DraftKings, they have her at plus 30,000 a long shot. just behind Nolan Siegel at plus 20,000. And of course, when you compare to the favorites, Alex Palou, as of now, was at plus 400, Paddle Award plus 650. But of course, bad run, especially in qualifying. Alex Palou qualifying later when the track's hotter. I don't anticipate he's going to be in the last row shootout, but may not exactly be up towards the front like he had hope. For Dale Coyne Racing, though, this is looking pretty bad. Dale Coyne Racing, bump day shootout between teammates. How is the team, especially Dale Coyne Racing, a small team, going to handle it where two other drivers are most likely going to be trying to bump each other?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head. I feel like it was Ericsson was down there. Obviously, he had his issue yesterday, and was trying to recover from that. So I suppose not too surprising. But I think Kiffin Simpson was the other one that was pretty slow on a 4-lap average. So that's an Andretti and Ganassi, respectively. I don't doubt that those teams have the resources and the teammates that have setups that could potentially find them some speed. So that if they were ending up in the last row shootout, they could be able to put a solid 4-lap average in to at least make the race. Obviously, once they make the race, it's going to be hard to make up all that ground, but that would put both Dale Coyne cars 33rd and 34th here. And we'd have a similar situation to last year where it was between the two Rahal cars of Graham Rahal and Jack Harvey to, bump each other out and, only one of them making the race. And Graham obviously failing to qualify. Of course, he got back in when he filled in for Steph Wilson. But yeah, I mean, right now, unless the team can find some speed in the next 24 to 48 hours, I think that, we could be seeing a repeat of that again this year, just with a different team. It's unfortunate, but, obviously Dale Coyne's brought some speed here in the past. I remember Sebastian Bourdais used to have some very strong runs here when he was driving for that team, but for whatever reason this year, it just does not seem like they have the speed or at least the setups. We saw Catherine Legg really struggling to even so much as hold it wide open on her runs. She had to lift quite a bit. So that's obviously not something you want to have happen, on Fast Friday, and certainly not when it comes time to actually qualify. So I think these two Dale Coyne cars, you have to look at them, like I said, as probably the favorites to at least be a part of a last row shootout, if not have it come down to those two cars as to who gets that 33rd and final spot.
And Graham Rahal's daughter just drew 32nd qualifying effort. So again, a low spot for Graham Rahal. That's going to be really interesting. Let's talk about Kyle Larson. Frustrating Thursday. Missed a lot of track time. Did not look that confident. We know for the rookies, if you're not on there making laps, you're not getting the experience. You're not able to fine-tune that car. You're missing out on those opportunities to improve the car. Big name in the motorsports here. And of course, he's with McLaren. Hendricks is behind him as well, too, for this. But not immune to being locked in for qualifying. He has to be the fastest 33. Much better today. 10th fastest 4-lap average and second fastest single lap time. But the last time McLaren did have a driver fail to qualify, Fernando Alonso, 2019, when he failed, got bumped out. Big story. Seeing what he done today, but knowing the entire week, the rain, the frustration yesterday, how confident are you Kyle Larson will qualify for the Indy 500? And remember, he drew pretty early on. He's going to be qualifying earlier in the day at 6.
Yeah, I think you could say single lap average, Joe. It's still average speed around the track here. We tend to go back and forth because most races we look at it in terms of time, but here at IMS, obviously it's tradition to look at the 4-lap average in terms of miles per hour. But yeah, getting back to Kyle Larson, I think if you had asked me this 24 hours ago, and I even hinted at it with Kobe yesterday, I wasn't going to predict that he was going to be part of a last row shootout or anything, but I did say that, it's certainly not a good thing that he missed out on so much track time on Thursday. And of course, we had the questions as to whether or not, we'd have more weather coming in today. Fortunately, we got a pretty full day in today, and Larson was able to make up for some of that and even run some pretty solid lap times and 4-lap average speed, single lap average speed. It doesn't matter. They seem to be there and could be contenders for the Fast 12. So I'm confident he will qualify. I'm not going to guarantee anything because it is Indianapolis, and I was definitely confident Alonso was going to qualify in 19, and that obviously didn't happen. So you just never know at this place. But I think Larson's looking like he's in pretty good shape at this point. to at least make the field. Will he get into the fast 12? I think that's a different question. He might be more borderline there. But I think as of right now, he seems to have gotten up to speed. Excuse me, I'm kind of losing my voice here. I've been on the air so much this week, but yeah, I think that he's in a pretty good position to not have to worry about having a sleepless night on Saturday as he goes into the last row shootout. I think he'll be pretty set to at least make it solidly in the field in the middle of the pack at the very least.
Middle pack, that's going to be very interesting to see because we know he got the All-Star race Sunday. I can't imagine if he is in that Super 12, the fastest 12, trying to go for the pole, the All-Star race and everything. Be really interesting to see how that all shapes up for the team. They just wrapped up the last two to draw. Catherine Legg, she'll be out 19th to go qualify, and the slowest car, Nolan Siegel, 12th. So they're going to have an early on race, qualifying lap when the track is still pretty cool as it gets warmer and warmer throughout the day. One driver, I think, is hoping for some improved luck compared to last year, Stingray Rob, but 34th Thursday, 30th on Wednesday, and 10th fastest on Monday. Overall, he's getting a little bit better. We've seen today 13th fastest. So considering Stingray Rob last year, Dale Coyne Racing was in that last row shootout. Could we witness another last row shootout with him in there along with the two Dale Coyne Racing cars?
Yeah, it could be. Obviously, I don't think the Ford team is necessarily one of the top teams in this series. So, Santino Ferrucci has shown a lot of speed in his career when it comes to the race, but over the last several years now, the Ford team has been struggling to match the pace of some of the top teams in this sport here. So, Stingray Rob could be a last row shootout contender. I know he certainly doesn't want to be, and it seems like he took a massive step forward today. So. I would still say the coin cars are probably the two most likely. Of course, that's who he was with last year when he was a part of this. I guess the only non-Rahal car to be a part of that shootout, because Rahal was really the team in trouble last year. Unfortunately, Catherine Legg was the only one to slot in to 30th and not have to worry about that. She might have to worry about that this year. Those would be the two that I think are the most likely. But again, nobody's safe. Stingray Rob certainly could be a part of that deal as well.
Yeah, nobody's safe. I think if Stingray Rob can have some good qualifying laps, be solidly in the field, he'll probably feel a lot better. And then could just focus on trying to stay up there, avoid being in that last row or 34th position. The weather forecast for tomorrow is going to start out at 65 degrees Fahrenheit. By noon, it's going to be moving up to 74 degrees, working its way up to 80 degrees by 3 p.m. and 81 degrees. The track conditions will be changed as the track gets warmer and warmer, Ben. How critical is it going to be for the drivers, especially as they're qualifying earlier in the day, where you have the first person going out, best track conditions, to the last person going out when the track could be at its hottest?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to take advantage of a good draw. So, the Penske cars, I know, and again, they're the top team in the sport for a reason. I don't doubt that they will be able to do this, but they have to make sure that they're hitting on all cylinders and lay down a good 4-lap average and take advantage of the draw that they've been given here. Again, if you're somebody like Alexander Rossi, though, who drew 34th and dead last, it doesn't change the fact that you obviously, no matter where your draw is, you have to be on your game and put down the fastest 4-lap average you can. But you have to be especially so in his case to try to make up for the position that he unfortunately drew today. So I think that obviously if you're somebody like Penske or who else do we have here? I guess McLaughlin was second. I'm trying to see Kirkwood going out first. I don't know if that's necessarily where I would want to go out because that's pretty nerve-wracking to be the one to kind of set the tone for the day and have a completely, I guess, not totally green racetrack. It's not going to be like washed away unless we get rain overnight here. But I would certainly prefer to go out early. And I think that those drivers who have been fortunate enough to get a draw like that, it's certainly up to them to make sure that they take advantage of that and set a good 4-lap average. But then again, it's just as important for those that are towards the back of the pack to make up for an unfavorable draw by making sure they're hitting on all cylinders as well.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I think qualifying as that track warms up early on, you're in a good spot. If you could make a good run, you're going to feel safe to keep that, where later in the day, you could probably get lucky if the clouds move over for a little bit, because it is going to be sunny, but it looks like there will be some clouds there. Just timing conditions is going to be really interesting to see how it all turns out. And of course, for everyone just tuned in, switching over, or they didn't watch, they did the drawing for the qualifying order. Some of the notables: Colton Herta was the fastest today in the single lap times. He was the first one to draw, 29th. So he's going to have to wait a long time before he hits the track. Kyle Larson was the second fastest. He'll be going out 6th tomorrow in qualifying. Kyle Larson made that draw. He had his family up there. Not every driver went up there. Some they had a team member or a family member go do the draw for them. Joseph Newgarden drew 10th, so he gets to go out later on. Scott McLaughlin, his wife, drew number 2. Ben, you were talking about how Kyle Kirkwood being the first to qualifying, maybe sort of a little bit of that more pressure. You're the first one to go out there. Do you think maybe number 2 would have been the more ideal one? Or do you still think just a little bit later, like 10th, 11th, 12th would be prime?
I'd want to be somewhere in between that. Because even second or third, I think, going out that early, not having much of a reference point. Again, some drivers are probably better at the mental aspect than others, but that's a lot of pressure, like I said, to be part of setting the tone for the afternoon here. But I think Kyle Larson probably got what the draw that I would most prefer. Have 5 cars go out ahead of you, kind of set the tone for the day, and still be able to take advantage of the track before too many drivers get out there and maybe create some more unfavorable conditions. I think the draw that Larson has is very favorable, and again, like we talked about, that I think should certainly put him into the race and into the fastest 30 to not have to worry about the last row shootout. Again, the fast 12 is going to be a different story here, but that's probably where I would prefer to be. Not one of the immediate first ones out there, but obviously you want to be on the earlier side than the later side.
Earlier side, the conditions, the track would be cooler. I would feel 5 through 10, I'll be in the happy spot. As long as you're in the top 15, I'll feel good. But once you get outside, I think it could be a bit dicey as we see the track starts to warm up and everything goes on. So, of course, after Scott McLaughlin, Alexander Rossi, his dad went up there, picked a coin, drew 34. He'll be the last driver to go out there, qualify. He has the speed, though. I don't think there's a risk of him being that last row shootout unless for some reason he has a horrible qualifying effort. Kyle Kirkwood, he will be number 1, the first driver to go out there and set 4 laps around the 2.5-mile Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Catherine Legg, we talked a little bit about her, pretty much the slowest today besides Nolan Siegel, her teammate. She'll be going out 19th, and then Nolan Siegel, who was the last person to draw since he was the slowest today, he's going out there 12th. So they're pretty early on, Dale Coyne Racing. Do you think the early draw could help Dale Coyne Racing if they were to set a pretty good lap time, and as the track warms up, maybe keep their spot away from that last row?
Well, Siegel's relatively early on in 12th. I don't know. I mean, Legg's more in the middle of the pack in 19th here. So I think that'll certainly advantage Siegel over Catherine Legg here. But I think, obviously it could have been worse. It could have been down in the low 20s or even down in the 30s there. So, yeah, I mean, I think that, that team, like I said, they're going to need, it might take more than just a favorable draw to keep them out of a last row shootout, given how far off the pace they were today here. So, as I've said all show, it's going to be a long night over Dale Coyne Racing, trying to make sure that they squeeze every little bit of performance out of his car, or these 2 cars rather, tomorrow, to try to avoid that. But yeah, I mean, every little bit will help. So I think, Siegel going 12th, not really even getting to draw, having everybody draw before him. I think that's it. It turned out about as well as you could ask for, really not being in control of your own destiny there. So yeah, I think that it could certainly play a role, but it's going to take more than just that to make sure that these 2 cars are safe from the last row shootout.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot to see what's going to happen. They have to put together 4 phenomenal laps to avoid that last row shootout and hope the forecast remains true. It just gets warmer and warmer, and there's no breaks from the cloud to cool it down. Question from the chat room. What was Dixon's draw? Scott
27th, I believe.
That is correct.
Christopher Hard was live tweeting it, and Dixon will go out 27th.
Yep, and Nathan Brown has the full list, so I could run it down. McLaughlin second, Rossi 34th, Power 9th, Award 23rd, Kirkwood first, Sato 26th, Ferrucci 13th, Canapino 7th. So that's a big effort for him. Rosenquist 24th, Hunter Ray 30th, Ilott 8th, and VK 4th. Let's talk about Rinus VK, Ben. This team, they don't exactly have the sponsorship levels like they did in the years past, but he always seems to be one of the drivers very fast in the first, second, or third row. Could this be a big turnaround for him and Ed Carpenter Racing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, how many times has Ed been on the front row or taken pole position here? Their cars always seem to be contenders. They seem to find that speed that you might not expect from a team that isn't part of the big three, if you will. But obviously Ed still comes out here every year to do this race, and VK as well has been very successful in terms of being able to lay down a fast 4-lap average in Indianapolis. So this is a great opportunity for him. I know he came away with an 8th place finish at St. Pete, but that's his only top 10 of the year so far, and he's gotten actually a little bit lower in the finishing result every race since then. So he certainly needs to turn around to his season, and what better place to do that than at the Indianapolis 500?
That'll be huge. Turn the season around. We know this is a big payday for the team, so for Ed Carpenter Racing, this would go a long ways. Taking a look at the rest of the draw from 16th through 30th, Stingray Rob 28th, and Reddy, Marco Andretti 17th, Lundgaard 14th, Carpenter 18th, Helio Castroneves, as I mentioned, 33rd. He's going to have a long ways to wait before he could set his lap. Dixon 27th, Ericsson 15th, Tom Blomqvist 22nd, Alex Palou 25th, Grosjean 5th. Great effort for him, that Hunkus Hollinger team, to try to go out there early. Armstrong 11th, Rasmussen, Linus Lundqvist 16th, Fittipaldi 21st, and Rahal 32nd. Let's talk about Rahal, Fittipaldi, Lundgaard. Fittipaldi, Rahal, they're both going to go out later in the day, but Christian Lundgaard is going to go out there 14th. Could this be an opportunity for Christian Lundgaard's team to go out there, hopefully set some good fast laps, and give data to Fittipaldi and Rahal to try to advance their cars, since they'll be going out later in the day?
Yeah, certainly not the draw that Rahal wanted after last year. I know those memories are still very fresh in his mind, but I think that the team has certainly turned around. It's not going to be a situation like last year, I think, where they lock out the last row shootout with all of their cars or anything. So, again, not a favorable draw, but I think, like you said, it's going to be up to, the driver that goes out first to relay that information over to his teammates that didn't get such a favorable draw. Rahal in particular, it certainly is an added little bit of pressure that he didn't need. But like I said, I think that I think even Graham was even interviewed during the Peacock coverage, and he said he thinks they can be top 15 tomorrow. So I think that, if they go out and hit all their marks, I think the cars certainly have more speed in them than they had last year. I don't think that that's an unrealistic goal or expectation for where the Rahal Letterman team is here in 2024.
The team seems a lot better. I think overall they should be feeling pretty good. Christian Lundgaard, if he has a good fast lap and could hang up there, I think that could really help the team overall. But it's got to be just one of those deals where he needs to set a good fast lap, because if he, for some reason, has to abort or something does not go well, then they're back to square one. The last few drivers, Connor Daly drew 20th. Kiffin Simpson, 3rd. So he's going to be going out much earlier on, I believe, the first rookie. So that's going to be very exciting for him. Catherine Legg, 19th. And Nolan Siegel, 12th. So that is the lineup for qualifying tomorrow. Ben, when it comes to qualifying tomorrow, 4 laps. The average speed is taken. Fastest 33 is going to get in. When it comes to the drivers to prepare for this, is this really the most pressure moment of the weekend? Not the practice. The race itself, we know some people have said once they put the visor on, get ready to start the race, everything seems to calm down, because now they just focus on their day job, racing. But we don't do this qualifying anywhere else, just at Indianapolis. Is this the biggest, most nerve-wracking qualifying effort in all of motorsports?
It is, and I think that's objective. I don't know how you can make the case for anything else because of what Indianapolis means and how Indianapolis runs their race. it doesn't matter if you're Scott Dixon. It doesn't matter if you're Will Power. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be a champion of a series, former winner of the 500. You are in the exact same position that all the rookies are making their first ever oval start. You have to come, you have to perform, you have to prove that you belong on that starting grid in the fastest 33. And I think that is one of the most sacred traditions that we still have left here at IMS. And I'm hoping and praying that even if this charter system is introduced, that guaranteed starts at the 500 are not a part of that. May we always see the fastest 33 in the starting lineup here at Indianapolis. And for these drivers, this is going to be the most important. Some of them that have never done this before, even Kyle Larson, all the racing experience, everything that he has ever driven in his career, the most important 10 miles of his career are still ahead of him tomorrow. And it's going to be the fastest, most nerve-wracking 4 laps for many of these drivers who either haven't done this before or have only done this a couple of times. Like you said, Joe, Kiffin Simpson, I guess, going out third. Like I was saying, that might be a little bit too early for me, especially if I was a rookie, making my first big oval start like this. I know that it's an advantage in terms of having a fresh, cooler racetrack, but I would rather, kind of get settled in a little bit, have some time to prepare myself and see some drivers go out ahead of me than just go third out, that early in the draw. So it is going to be very interesting, very exciting to watch tomorrow. But like you said, Joe, these 10 miles, these 4 laps, there's nothing else like it in the world of motorsports. And that's one of the most beautiful traditions that we still have here at the 500 through all the changes and all the different sanctioning bodies that have run this race over the years. It is still the fastest 33, and I hope it remains that way for a long time to come.
Second that, the fastest 33 only, no guarantees. I mean, even a 25-8 rule will just not cut it because, there'll be that controversy. This person was fastest, but they're not in there. Keep it as it is. Great spectacle in motorsports, and you have to be the fastest 33. Nothing else matters. 4 laps, 10 miles. Get the job done, all on the driver. Going to be very interesting. Of course, qualifying starts tomorrow. Tomorrow, Grid Life pre-race will be on the air an hour early. We're going to be previewing Formula One at Imola, NASCAR Cup Series at North Wilkesboro, and recap the first supercar race. Be sure to go on social media and find our pick a winner. It's never too late to share your pick a winners. And of course, hit the bell icon, subscribe to us because we got the pre-race show, then the wrap-up show Sunday. It's going to be focused on Formula One supercars, the Indianapolis 500 qualifying effort. We'll be talking about who got bumped. And then Grid Encore, the alternative, the second home for the NASCAR Cup Series. They're going to recap the All-Star race, as well as we got the Truck Series racing out in North Wilkesboro. Going to be a fun show. Brandon and Ben, definitely subscribe so you don't miss their program. Wednesday, Grid Tonight, the latest motorsports news. Kobe Lambeth, Joshua Burst, everybody in the Grid Network team that has been on the air Grid Tonight all week. A big thank you to them. Be sure to buy them a cup of coffee, show your appreciation. Then Ben, myself, along with Isha and Emily, will be back on the air for the Women in Motorsports next week. So busy time for the Grid Network, but a fun time because it's the month of May, Indianapolis 500. And as I mentioned before, you can buy a cup of coffee for Ben, any member of our Grid Network team. And of course, invest in the Grid Network. Call the show. Mark, Robin, David, Matthew have been investing in us through Patreon. You too can invest in us. We'll send you some Grid Network stickers in the mail and a thank you letter. And we read your name at the beginning of every program right here on the Grid Network. For Ben Schneider, I'm Joe Samaniiego. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time and enjoy the races.